Emerging as a newly crowned Orange League champion, Ash's dream of becoming a Pokemon master is burning brighter than ever. But after a devastating loss to his rival Gary in the reunion in Pallet Town, Ash is inspired to travel to the Johto region, with hopes of battling new trainers and catching Pokemon he's never seen before. As part of their Johto journeys, Professor Oak requests Ash to deliver the GS Ball to Kurt, the master of Pokeballs who resides in Azalea Town, since the professor himself couldn't seem to figure out what's inside this mysterious ball. With that, Ash, Misty, and Brock venture to the rural lands of Johto, except that they instantly get lost in the woods as soon as they get there. But deep in the woods, they witness a mysteriously majestic blue Pokemon, but it suddenly leaps away. Not long after, Ash, Misty, and Brock set their feet on New Barktown, where winds of new beginnings blow. Ash's main agenda in this town is to register for the Johto League. Here, he's introduced to the 3 elemental starters of the region, Chikorita, Cyndaquil, and Totodile. He also meets Professor Elm, Professor Oak's top student, and one who specializes in unusual Pokemon abilities. However, when they get to the lab, they are greeted with a case of a missing Totodile. Professor Elm was too focused on his studies that he failed to watch over the Totodile that's supposed to be picked up by a new trainer tomorrow. But thanks to our heroes and Officer Jenny, they're able to track the whereabouts of Totodile. Turns out it's Team Rocket who's behind all of this. The problem is that Totodile wouldn't want to let go of Jesse's hair no matter how hard they tried. But with the help of Ash's Charizard and Bulbasaur, Totodile is freed, and they, along with Squirtle, Pikachu, and Totodile, bestow Team Rocket their first ever Jotonian Blastoff. Totodile is safely returned, and Nurse Joy officially registers Ash to the Johto League. Upon leaving New Barktown, Ash, Misty, and Brock talk about how awesome it is to have met a Totodile and a Cyndaquil, though they wish they could have met a Chikorita as well. But just as they're saying it, they stumble across a new trainer, Casey, who's got none other than Chikorita as her partner. Casey's a new trainer who just began her adventure. She's energetic and feisty, a great commentator, a huge fan of the Electabuzz baseball team, and dreams of one day creating a team of yellow Pokemon with stripes. Ash comments on how incompetent the Electabuzz team is, saying stuff like, "I've seen better swings on a playground." This enrages Casey, so she decides to settle the argument in a 3-on-3 Pokemon battle, despite knowing that Ash is an experienced trainer. Ash, with his ego challenge, decides to put Casey in her place and instantly calls for Charizard. With that, Pidgey dead, Rattata dead, Chikorita dead. Overkill is an understatement. Brock, Misty, and even Ash try to comfort Casey and tell her that she did a great job, but Casey runs away, crying in humiliation. But with Electabuzz's resilience, Casey gets up on her feet and wouldn't let a simple loss crush her. She challenges Ash to a rematch, this time Pikachu vs Chikorita. Now Casey's got some tricks up her sleeve, and she's able to land some attacks against Ash. However, Team Rocket interrupts the battle and attempts to steal both Pikachu and Chikorita. Baseballs are thrown their way, and as Casey declares she's given up, Ash lifts her spirits and tells her that a Pokemon match is just like baseball. You gotta take whatever the other team throws at you and hang in there to the last out. Casey then musters the courage to swing her bat non-stop, bouncing the ball back towards Team Rocket. And so, all of Ash and Casey's Pokemon work together to send back the baseballs, resulting in a successful rescue of Pikachu and Chikorita, and Team Rocket blasting off. With that, Ash makes his very first Johto friend and shares a high touch with her. Casey soon leaves, saying that maybe someday she'll become a great trainer just like Ash. She then says that maybe they'll even battle in the Johto League, and I can't wait for that to happen. Unlike future generations where Ash decides to bring only Pikachu when traveling to a new region, Ash brought his experienced roster to Johto, seasoned Pokemon who already made waves in the Kanto and Orange Leagues. So Ash starts his season on a high note as an experienced trainer with a relatively good knowledge on Pokemon. It isn't long until these veterans are joined by another skilled battler in the form of a fierce fighting beetle. In the forest lives a swarm of Heracross who likes to feed on tree saps along with their Butterfree friends. Ash really wants to catch a Heracross, but he's warned that this act may cause an ecological imbalance in the forest, so he complies. However, a swarm of pincers starts attacking them, scaring most of the Heracross and Butterfree away. But one Heracross stands still, protecting a cornered Butterfree. Seeing them outnumbered, Ash steps in to help ward off the pincer. But as soon as they're gone, Heracross goes straight to Bulbasaur and starts sucking on its sap from its bulb. The annoyed Bulbasaur whips the beetle away, and the gang decides to investigate the odd behavior of the pincer. Throughout the investigation, Heracross has been following them, assisting them in every way that it can, and soon they figure out that Team Rocket is behind all of this, as they stole all the saps from Pincer's home. They manage to build this pincer machine that negates all of Ash's attacks, so Heracross takes the action and wrestles the machine, leading to Team Rocket's failure. The pincer reclaimed their home, and the ecology is beginning to balance once more. In the end, Heracross follows Ash as they leave, signaling that it wants to join him on his journey. With that, Ash captures his very first Pokemon in the Johto region. On their way to Violet City, where Ash aims to win his first gym badge, the gang passes by a pretty cold and snowy mountain. Here they come across a wild and tough looking Chikorita. Ash of course wants to capture her, so he calls for Bulbasaur. The battle begins with Bulbasaur gaining the upper hand, but when Ash lowers his guard, Chikorita manages to land a critical blow on Bulbasaur's head, causing Ash to switch to his trump card, Charizard. Chikorita stands no chance, or so we thought. She grabs Charizard by the leg and whips the fire lizard off its balance. Chikorita again does her trick by aiming her Vine Whip onto Charizard's head, causing Charizard to crash into a mountain. But Chikorita's vines are entangled with Charizard, so she too crashes into the mountain. Ash recalls Charizard and quickly takes Chikorita to the Pokemon Center. Nurse Joy notes that Chikorita in this area are famous for being stubborn and love to battle even if they know they can't win. Soon later, Team Rocket executes their plan of kidnapping Chikorita, but Ash thinks quickly and chases after them. So as Team Rocket tries to convince Chikorita to sign the Team Rocket contract, Ash breaks in and threatens them to prepare for trouble. Maybe you think it's a little too brash, but the master is here and his name is Ash. Ash and Pikachu throw snowballs at Team Rocket, but they instead get caught in Team Rocket's trap. The three of them try to escape, but instead they lose their balance and slide down the snowy mountain. With the snow coming in, Ash and Pikachu find shelter in a cave. But before they could feel comfortable, they remember Chikorita and first try to find her, knowing she's gonna have a hard time battling the cold. He searches every nook and cranny of this giant mountain, and at last he finally finds the leaf Pokemon. Ash earns Chikorita's trust, and they make their way back to the cave where Chikorita gets to feel Ash's warm embrace as they sleep through the night. The next day, Pikachu and Chikorita work together to foil another one of Team Rocket's plans, and as they go their separate ways, Chikorita runs to Ash, prompting him to capture her. She gives Ash a cute little kiss, and honestly, they make the perfect team. Team Stubborn. Throughout the early days of Johto, it's all about exploring the region for Ash, Misty, and Brock. They're introduced to new Pokemon, new stories, and they find how similar yet distinct the Johto region is from the Kanto region. They also meet Gary, who claims to have caught a bunch of new Pokemon this early in the adventure. They even meet the scariest creature they've ever seen. But all those winding paths have led to the nostalgic sense of Violent City. It's a long adventure, but as soon as they get there, Team Rocket attempts to snatch Pikachu. Good thing a man on his hang glider calls on his intelligent Hoo-Hoo to rescue Pikachu. And with the help of his amazingly fast and huge Pidgeot, they send Team Rocket to the stratosphere. This guy's name is Falconer, and he's actually the Violet City gym leader. He starts speaking about his dream of flying to the skies and how it maddens him how some people underestimate flying type Pokemon's capability against electric types. As they rise towards the gym, Falconer notes how Ash's case is weird because he usually doesn't make friends with the gym challengers, but Falconer promises to give Ash a good match. The gym battle begins with Hoo-Hoo versus Chikorita. Falconer comments how bad of a choice this is, seeing as grass types are weak against flying types, to which Ash responds that Falconer of all people should know better than to judge Pokemon based on their types. Right off the bat, Hoo-Hoo lands his first tackle and peck, and as Chikorita tries to retaliate, the owl just swiftly dodges all her attacks, ending Chikorita with a powerful tackle attack. Ash decides to use a type matchup against Falconer and calls for Pikachu. Pikachu wastes no time and instantly fries Hoo-Hoo and finishes it off with a quick attack. Falconer then sends out Dodrio, who he says has been undefeated by his opponents. Dodrio jumps so high that it looks like it can fly and proceeds to land a series of attacks on Pikachu. But our boy isn't ready to give up. As Dodrio prepares for a finishing tri-attack, Pikachu bounces on Dodrio's heads and finishes it off with a single thunder attack. So far, type matchups seem to have been proven effective, but as Falconer sends his final Pokemon Pidgeot, Pikachu is too tired to continue that it succumbs to a single Whirlwind. With the winds turning against Ash, he decides to fight an amazing flyer with his fire and sends out his ultimate answer to all difficult battles, Charizard. At first, Charizard is having a hard time landing any hit because Pidgeot's speed is truly unmatched. It manages to reflect Charizard's flamethrower with Whirlwind and land a series of attacks. Now when the battle takes to the skies, Pidgeot smartly uses agility to get behind Charizard, attacking it at a vulnerable state. Falconer attempts this multiple times, but on this final time, Ash commands Charizard to aim its fire spin behind, trapping the bird Pokemon in its flames and finishing it off with an iconic seismic toss. Ash wins his first Johto Gym badge on his first try, and Falconer wishes him good luck on his journey to the Johto League. Continuing on their journey, Misty and Brock comment on how it's unfair that Ash uses his Charizard in most battles to take an easy win since Pokemon don't stand a chance against it. Now, Charizard may be strong compared to most Pokemon, but for Charizard standards, it's a pretty weak Pokemon. When the gang visits the Charcific Valley, they meet Liza, who tames a bunch of Charizard, including her very own trusty Charla. But the Charizard in this area are on a whole nother level. Ash is so confident that his Charizard is the best, even though it can't even fly properly with Ash on its back. Inside Charcific Valley, Ash's Charizard decides to prove itself against especially extra-sized Charizard, but of course it stands zero chance against these trained fighters and is kicked out of the lair. Next, it challenges little Charlotte to a battle, but she just shoulder throws Ash's Charizard straight into the water. Liza comments that it'll never be a great Charizard if it just acts tough and doesn't respect its own limitations. She commands it to stay in the water and think about how to improve itself. Despite hating the water, Charizard has a burning ambition to become stronger, so it decides to toughen up and stay in the water all night, also thanks to the help of Team Rocket keeping it awake. The next day, Team Rocket formulates a plan to trespass the valley to make Charizard look like the hero. When they're blasted off, Liza's impressed not only with Charizard's performance against Team Rocket, but also its heart and dedication. So she offers Charizard to train with her and the other Charizard. And with a heavy heart, Ash decides to let go of Charizard for its own growth. He tries to mask his feelings by calling Charizard weak and saying he'll be fine without it. But deep down, we know Ash truly loves his Charizard, and him leaving it at the Charcific Valley is one of the greatest testaments to that. But as one fiery Pokemon leaves, another must arrive. In a forest en route to Azalea Town, Ash, Misty, and Brock meet a pretty unfriendly trainer named Koji who pursues catching a Cyndaquil. The thought of adding a Cyndaquil to his team excites Ash, so it quickly becomes a quest to see who can catch Cyndaquil the fastest. Koji tries to sabotage Ash whenever he comes close at catching Cyndaquil, but the fiery mouse is good at hiding and escaping. Until one point when Team Rocket launches its bomb ball into a cave. Ash manages to save Cyndaquil, but Team Rocket is insistent and corners them, so Ash commands Cyndaquil to run away and be free. Team Rocket then threatens to attack Cyndaquil, but this fighter surprisingly takes him out with a single flamethrower. But now Team Rocket's machine is about to explode, which threatens the safety of Cyndaquil. So with no choice left, Ash frees himself, grabs his Pokeball, and captures Cyndaquil to save it from the explosion. Koji is disappointed with this, so he manipulates Ash into accepting the battle challenge, where the winner gets to keep Cyndaquil. Ash decides to use Cyndaquil itself against Koji's Sandslash. Cyndaquil isn't the most bloodthirsty Pokemon, as it spends most of its battle evading hits, and even if it takes some, it doesn't seem to want to fight back. But then there comes a point when Sandslash's claw is trapped in a tree trunk, giving Cyndaquil the opportunity to finish it off with a tackle attack. Koji then just brute forces his way to Cyndaquil with a net, but the fiery mouse just serves him a beautifully hot flamethrower. Ash now has himself a fire type, which is exactly what he needs for the upcoming bug type gym match in Azalea Town. But the first order of business in this town is to deliver the GS ball to Kurt, the Pokeball Master, the guy who can turn apricorns into Pokeballs. Turns out Kurt doesn't have a clue about this Pokeball. He just knows that it's a simple yet complex, classic but bold, advanced but primitive. He believes that the Pokeball is protected by a very powerful lock, and it's his mission to figure out how to open it and discover what rests inside. So for now, Ash heads straight to the hives of the Azalea Gym to covet his second badge. There he's met by Bugsy, the gym leader, one who claims to know everything there is to know about bug Pokemon. The 3v3 gym battle starts off with Spinarak vs Cyndaquil. It seems to be early for Cyndaquil as it's too sleepy to battle right now. Spinarak begins with a series of string shots, attempting to slow Cyndaquil down. Cyndaquil does a great job of evading attacks until it can no longer do so. This makes Cyndaquil vulnerable to a Poison Sting attack, but before Spinarak can land its second Poison Sting, Ash switches out for Chikorita. Chikorita is here to prove that she can overcome a type disadvantage, especially after an underwhelming performance last time. Spinarak skillfully navigates the air with its threads, but Chikorita is also great at defending the attacks that come her way. Soon Chikorita distracts Spinarak with its Sweet Scent and proceeds to finish it off with a tackle. Bugsy's next Pokemon is Metapod. It wastes no time and goes for Harden, significantly weakening all of Chikorita's attacks. Chikorita can do nothing at this point but accept her fate as Metapod jumps high and charges in with Tackle, ending Chikorita's time on the battlefield. Now it's Pikachu's turn. Metapod is surprisingly speedy and agile, managing to create a sand cloud and leaf barrier to allow it to hide from Pikachu. But thankfully, Pikachu is faster and more agile, and the electric mouse hops on Metapod's back and finishes it off with Thunderbolt. Bugsy is forced to send out his last Pokemon, his dreadful ace Scyther. He knows that it's been a long time since the trainer has brought him down to his final Pokemon, so this is already a great achievement for Ash. But that's not what he came for. Pikachu goes for agility, but Scyther is unfazed with eyes as sharp as its scythes. It evades Pikachu's incoming Thunderbolt with Double Team and minces Pikachu with Fairy Cutter. Now Ash too is down to his last Pokemon, and it's Cyndaquil's time to show that it can follow in Charizard's footsteps as it carries his team with a burning little fire inside of it. Cyndaquil first dodges all of Scyther's Fairy Cutters before warming up its back flame and launching a flamethrower. But Scyther executes its very own version of Sword Dance Counter Shield and thwarts the attack while simultaneously landing its own, all while increasing its attack stat. But then, a light bulb strikes in Ash's brain as he baits Scyther to using its Counter Shield once more. Bugsy falls into Ash's trap, so now Cyndaquil is free to jump above Scyther, spin along its rhythm, and unleash a powerful, super effective flamethrower. Scyther's already fainted at this time, but Cyndaquil isn't content yet, so it attacks once more with a gravity-assisted tackle, further ensuring the win. With that, Cyndaquil has truly earned the title of being Charizard's successor. They both have the tendency to overkill. This Cyndaquil would go on to become one of Ash's most reliable and resilient battlers in the series, proving that size doesn't really matter when it comes to Pokemon battling. Ash is awarded the Hive Badge, and before they leave the town, Kurt's granddaughter delivers them their very own Apricorn balls from the Apricorns they collected themselves. Brock gets a Heavy Ball, while Ash and Misty each get a Lure Ball. This is in addition to the Fastball that he already gave them earlier. As of now, Kurt still needs more time to study the GS Ball, so maybe someday we're gonna unravel the secrets of the mysterious Pokeball, right? The episode title of Ash vs Bugsy is Getting the Bugs Out, but Ash may have been taking the title too seriously because 2 episodes later, Ash gets rid of his own bug Pokemon, as he calls Professor Oak to swap Heracross for Tauros to join a Tauros battling competition. Heracross is a powerhouse in battle. One of its greatest moments in early Johto is when it battles and defeats a powerful and clever Scizor owned by Shingo, who is the son of a trainer who once equaled Elite Four. It would have been awesome to witness Heracross doing wonders in Ash's Johto gym run. Maybe if there's someone who's happy about the early departure, it's definitely Bulbasaur. Anyways, in the Tauros battling competition, a trainer named Fernando and his Tauros already swept 10 other Tauros in a row. So Ash is more than excited to challenge him and show what his own Tauros is made of. Both bulls start straight and have their horns locked in. It's an intense battle of willpower and strength, and in the end, it's Ash's Tauros who gains the power to launch its opponent into the air, knocking it out of the battlefield. Ash and Tauros get the crowd's cheer, and as for Heracross, it sadly stays in the lab because Professor Oak wants to do more research on it. Now, Ash currently has 5 cute Pokemon in his main party, but it's about to lose another member. The Pokemon Fire and Rescue Grand Prix, a firefighting competition, is being held nearby, so Ash wants to participate with a Squirtle and Pikachu alongside Misty, Staryu, and Psyduck. But Officer Jenny's Squirtle squad shows up, and the Squirtles seem unconfident and disoriented without their leader. So after Ash's team loses in the very first round, Squirtle decides to regroup with the Squirtle squad and act as their leader and beacon of guidance throughout the firefighting event. Their main competition is Captain Aiden's team War Turtle, who won last year. Both teams make it all the way to the final round, where they are tasked to put out the fire of a burning house while rescuing a dummy Clefairy. And by literally just a second, Team Squirtle barely finishes first and snags the victory. Seeing the wonders that a Squirtle makes by leaving the Squirtle squad, Ash makes a decision of leaving it with Officer Jenny to continue its firefighting career. With his water Pokemon gone, Ash decides to spend the day fishing for one by the lake with Misty and Brock. After hours of fishing, a cute and jolly Totodile shows up. Ash and Misty both take their turns to catch his Pokemon, but it's shown to be quite powerful as it escapes both of their catching attempts. But Ash and Misty are adamant at catching the Big Jaw Pokemon, so they chase after it until they find it in the middle of the forest. Misty whips out her Lure Ball, which is said to be the best way to catch water Pokemon, so Ash does the same. They throw their Lure Balls at the same time, and Totodile is captured. The only problem is neither Ash or Misty know whose Lure Ball caught the Totodile. So Brock takes custody of the Pokemon, and now Ash and Misty battle it out to see who gets to keep Totodile. It's a best 2 out of 3 battle, and knowing Misty only carries water Pokemon, Ash begins with Pikachu. But he overlooks one Pokemon that Misty owns, her secret weapon against Pikachu, and that's Togepi. Pikachu struggles to find the nerve to attack the baby sibling, so after one charm attack from Togepi, Pikachu quits the battle, giving Misty the first win. The second battle is between Chikorita and Staryu. Both Pokemon are fierce on the battlefield, and despite Staryu's higher level, Chikorita manages to grab its body with Vine Whip and delivers a devastating slam to the ground, giving Ash the win. Finally, it's Bulbasaur vs Poliwag, and this battle decides which trainer takes ownership of Totodile. The battle is quite even at first, but after Bulbasaur lands a lethal Razor Leaf attack, Poliwag is almost unable to battle, but it hangs on and evolves into Poliwhirl. With a stronger frog on her team, Misty begins to turn the tides in her favor, leaving Ash with no choice but to gamble with a Solar Beam attack. Poliwhirl tries to stop this by spewing bubbles on Bulbasaur as it's charging up, but eventually the Solar Beam gets charged, launching straight into Poliwhirl, winning Ash the battle and the coveted Totodile. The Totodile is a ball of joy, arguably the most energetic Pokemon in the entire franchise. Plus, it has similar qualities with Brock, as it oftentimes would fall in love with other Pokemon, only to be rejected by its love interest. As they inch closer to Goldenrod City, our heroes pass by a forest where they meet a man named Dr. Wiseman who spent a long time catching this extremely rare Noctowl. This Noctowl is shiny colored, and much smaller than regular Noctowl, so it's definitely a special one. Seeing this, Ash decides that he too wants to capture this Noctowl. But despite their multiple attempts, Noctowl's got amazing hypnotic powers that can fool anyone, protecting itself from people and Pokemon. But not enough to protect itself from Team Rocket. Team Rocket captures Noctowl with their Noctowl Mecha, as Ash instructs Bulbasaur and Chikorita to hold the Mecha in place so he could climb and set Noctowl free. As soon as Noctowl escapes, it forges a plan with Cyndaquil and Totodile to combine their power of fire and water to weaken the Mecha's material, as Bulbasaur and Chikorita hold it in place, which leads to Pikachu blasting Team Rocket off. It's the perfect teamwork of Ash's Johto team. In the end, Noctowl gestures like it's trying to tell them something. Mr. Wiseman says that maybe Noctowl wants to challenge Ash to Pokemon battle, giving him the opportunity to catch it. So knowing Noctowl's dangerous hypnosis, Ash commands Pikachu to close its eyes and instead use his ears to sense Noctowl's location. This allows him to land a powerful Thunderbolt without being subjected to hypnosis, allowing Ash to capture the shiny Noctowl. Now Ash has a full team of 6, and both his recent captures Total Down Noctowl will prove to be extremely useful in his next 2 gym battles. It isn't long until Ash, Misty, and Brock reach the bustling city of Goldenrod. There they stumble upon Whitney, who kindly offers to take them to the Goldenrod Galeria. After some minor inconveniences with Team Rocket, Whitney reveals herself to be the gym leader of Goldenrod. She leads them to her gym, which I must say is definitely plainer than the usual ones we've seen. Whitney is geared with her monstrous set of normal types, but Ash is ready to beat them all, so he sends out Cyndaquil against Whitney's first normal type, Nidorina? Nidorina goes for Poison Sting, but Cyndaquil quickly burns all of it. Nidorina then charges for Tackle, but our Fiery Boy blasts another Flamethrower, one-shotting the Poison Pin Pokemon. Next up is Whitney's Clefairy. In the games, Clefairy's only threatening move is Metronome, but good thing it only summons a Splash Attack. So Cyndaquil bursts out more Flamethrowers. Turns out Clefairy isn't really a big fan of battles, so it forfeits the match, leaving Whitney with 1 Pokemon left. This match is too easy, Ash says, but just as he thinks that this battle is in the bag, here comes the Nightmare of Destruction, the bringer of terror, the embodiment of malevolence, masked in a cute pink fur.
Holy cow!
So yeah, every kid who's played the Johto games knows exactly what happens here. That's what you get for benching your only fighting type, Ash. This stomping defeat makes Ash realize that there's no way he can beat Minnie's Will Tank with brute force alone. So he formulates a pretty complex procedure that requires teamwork and trust, one which excellently utilizes the strong traits of each Pokemon, all just to defeat a single Pokemon. So after saving Whitney's farm from the hands of Team Rocket, Whitney agrees to Ash's proposal of battling Miltank right now, right there in this open field. And if he wins, he gets to have a proper rematch in the Goldenrod gym. After prepping his team and telling him the secret plan, Ash calls for Cyndaquil, inflicting as much damage to Miltank as possible. Cyndaquil is one of Ash's most resilient Pokemon, so firing a series of tackles and taking a bunch of rollouts has managed to tire Miltank out a little bit before the Fire Mouse succumbs. Next up is Totodile, and his role in this battle is to use his Water Gun attack to form trenches in the field before getting wiped out by another rollout. Finally, it's Pikachu. He first uses agility to evade all of Miltank's rollout attacks, but now the Holy Cow starts getting derailed from the trenches Totodile made. Then Pikachu hides in one of the trenches, awaiting the time Miltank rolls over it, and as soon as that happens, Pikachu launches Miltank into the air and finishes it off with a single powerful Thunderbolt. With that, Whitney gives Ash the plain badge anyway, but thankfully without the whining and sniveling. Ash beating Miltank is proof enough that he's deserving of this badge, and a proper gym rematch is deemed unnecessary. Our heroes then proceed north and enter the national park where Ash joins the bug catching contest. Casey's also here, and she aims to catch her own bug type and win the coveted Sunstone. At first, Casey manages to outpace Ash in beating the bug types in the park, and she even captures a Weedle that Ash saw first. But seeing Casey push her Chikorita so bad, Ash calls her out, saying that it's unfair to force Chikorita to battle when it's too weak to continue. With Chikorita's struggle to battle a Scyther, Ash and Pikachu deal with it themselves. Ash continues to explore the national park until he eventually finds a fully evolved beautiful Beedrill and captures it. But when Team Rocket gets involved and traps Ash and Pikachu, Casey's Chikorita evolves into Bayleaf and rescues the both of them. In the end, Ash wins the bug catching contest and gets to keep a Sunstone and his newly captured Beedrill. But before parting ways, Ash gives Casey the Beedrill he just won as thanks for saving him from Team Rocket, plus he knows that Casey loves yellow striped Pokemon. After exiting National Park, it takes Ash and friends 20 whole episodes to reach Ecruteak City. Well, this midsection of the Johto saga is really about exploring the whole new world of Johto. Contrary to his adventures in Kanto, where Ash was just learning how the Pokemon world works, his Johto's journeys are full of confident expeditions. As the Orange League champion, Ash now has a reputation to hold. In Johto, Ash participates in many more mini competitions, like the Seaking catching competition, where he temporarily catches a Seaking, but it's not heavy enough to win the competition. He also joins the Grass Tournament, a 1v1 tournament style Pokemon battle using only Grass-type Pokemon. His main opponent here is a kid who trains this adorable Skippy the Skiploom. In their initial battle before the competition, Ash quite easily defeats him with Chikorita. So instead of training, Ash gets cocky, underestimates his opponent in the Grass Tournament, and decides to just enjoy the flowers before the competition. Meanwhile, the kid and Skippy spend the whole afternoon strengthening their moves. So the day of the tournament comes, and both Ash and Aphraim make their way all the way to the finals. This time Ash uses Bulbasaur against Skippy. Skippy's got some great defensive and offensive strats, but Bulbasaur manages to shut them all down. That is until Skippy learns Solar Beam mid-battle. And with the little strength that it has left, Skippy unleashes the attack, defeating Bulbasaur and crushing Ash's pride. This battle truly teaches Ash a lesson not to be so overconfident in his Pokemon battles. And for the rest of the Johto saga, Ash will be more cautious and level-headed in how he approaches Pokemon battling. Now wielding a better mindset, Ash is ready and more equipped to take on the Ecruteak Gym and win his 4th badge. With the knowledge that Gym Leader Morty specializes in Ghost Pokemon, he starts planning his strategy in the Pokemon Center. But Nurseroid points out that he's got a secret weapon in Noctowl, which makes him realize that its Foresight attack has the ability to expose any Ghost Pokemon that tries to hide itself. So in the middle of Morty's teachings, Ash challenges him to a 3-on-3 battle, and it starts with Ghastly vs Noctowl. This instantly worries Misty and Brock, since Noctowl is supposed to be Ash's secret weapon against Morty's stronger Pokemon like Gengar, but Ash claims he knows what he's doing. Noctowl goes for Hypnosis, but of course it misses, just like whenever we try to use it in the games. Ghastly proceeds to try to confuse Noctowl, but one Foresight later and the Ghast Pokemon is exposed. Noctowl now goes for the offense with a series of tackles, but Ghastly is still too quick and avoids them all, eventually getting behind Noctowl and scoring a dangerous Slick attack. This makes Ash panic a little, and since Ghastly has been Foresighted already, Noctowl's job is done for now, so Ash switches to his own speedy Pokemon Pikachu. A quick attack knocks Ghastly down, but it still manages to get up. It then evades a Thunderbolt and counters back with Nightshade, quickly ending Pikachu's run in the battle. It's Cyndaquil's turn to turn the tides, and after both Pokemon evade each other's attacks, Cyndaquil takes advantage of Ghastly's Lick attack and climbs its tongue and lands a fatal tackle. Morty's second Pokemon is Haunter, an even faster Ghost-type Pokemon than Ghastly. Mean Look forces Cyndaquil to stay, ensuring that Ash can't summon Noctowl's Foresight for this round. But Cyndaquil is strong enough to do some damage and immediately hits it with Swift. Haunter then tries to put it to sleep with Hypnosis, but Cyndaquil cancels it out by using Smokescreen as a shield. However, Haunter's floating hands manages to grab Cyndaquil out from the smoke, and it sadly succumbs to a Lick attack. With only Noctowl left, Ash's hopes of winning this battle are starting to diminish, but it isn't over till it's over. Noctowl starts off by exposing Haunter with Foresight, and is surprisingly fast as it dodges all of Haunter's attacks. And then in a collision of Hypnosis and Confuse Ray, the Ghost-type attack wins, and now Noctowl is debilitated. Despite this, the Owl Pokemon remains resilient and keeps on going. As Haunter's preparing for a Nightshade attack, Noctowl charges in with Tackle, severely damaging Haunter and absorbing the Nightshade to heal itself from confusion. Soon later, Noctowl's hair eyebrow thingy starts glowing, which is a sign that it's learned the confusion attack, which it uses to finish Haunter off. Morty is left with one Pokemon as well, his ace, a perfectly healthy Gengar. Noctowl tries a confusion attack, but Shadow Ball instantly vaporizes it and dominates the battlefield. It then attacks with Nightshade before Noctowl could even land the Foresight. So instead of Foresight, Noctowl sends Confusion to the whole building, a nice trick that both damages and exposes Gengar. This gives it the opening to secure a Foresight, ensuring no escape, and before it can land the Shadow Ball, Noctowl lands the finishing tackle, winning Ash the battle and his 4th gym badge. After the battle, Ash, Misty, and Brock befriend a girl named Sakura and her 4 other Kimono sisters. They spend the day with them in their tea ceremony, but more importantly, Sakura and her Eevee want to join them on their journey through the Johto League, much to her sister's disapproval. So they strike a deal that if Ash, Misty, and Brock defeat Sakura's sisters in a best-of-3 battle, then they'll allow her to travel with them. Misty and Poliwhirl are first up against Summono and her Vaporeon, but the battle ends with Vaporeon winning. Next up is Ash's Pikachu versus Satsuki and Jolteon, and we know Pikachu would refuse to lose an electric type, so with a couple of hits, Ash wins the battle. But before the 3rd battle could begin, Sakura decides to call the day off, saying that she's not ready yet and she only get in the way of their journey. So Ash, Misty, and Brock respect the decision and continue their travels as a trio in the Johto region, which means it's more tournaments for Ash. Ash, Misty, and Brock come across Raiden, and his powerful Feraligatr who wrestles his opponents like they're nothing. This Feraligatr is bound to participate in the Pokemon Sumo Conference, where Pokemon have a wrestling match using only their physical strength and not relying on their usual attacks. This piques Ash's interest, so he decides to enter the tournament with Snorlax, whom he's been with since the Orange Islands. In the Sumo tournament, Snorlax defeats all of its fighting type opponents just by bouncing them off the ring with his body. They make it all the way to the finals where they face Feraligatr. Snorlax's bouncing technique doesn't work on this veteran, so it relies on its pure strength, resilience, and willpower and pushes Feraligatr out of the ring, winning the coveted King's Rock and a 1-year supply of Pokemon food, which for Snorlax is a happy 1 meal supply of Pokemon food. Another tournament that Ash joins is the Pokemon Balloon Race, this time with Misty and Brock. With hot air balloons ascending into the air, trainers rely on their fire-type Pokemon to provide hot air and flying-type Pokemon to steer the balloon. The goal is to drop an oddish weight onto a target and land as close to the X mark as possible. Ash calls on Cyndaquil and Noctowl for this tournament, and after Team Rocket sabotages a lot of the competition, we are left with Team Noctowl's Ash, Misty, and Brock in a Pikachu balloon, and Team Fiero, Skylar, and Tenma in a, well, Fiero balloon. Both Ash and Skylar throw oddishes onto the target, and they both land their markers in the middle of the target at the same time, which means both teams are crowned the winners. The prize is a new balloon engine, and since Ash, Misty, and Brock don't need the engine, they kindly give it to Skylar and Tenma. Ash has won 4 gym badges already, but for some reason none of his Pokemon have evolved yet, but that's about to change. When Team Rocket captures Chikorita in a cage, Ash tries to save it using his own powers. Team Rocket's Pokemon send their attacks towards a helpless Ash, causing him to get hurt and catch bruises. So with all the love and desire to save her trainer, Chikorita evolves and breaks free from the cage, sending Team Rocket blasting off again. As a Chikorita, her love language to Ash is to run towards him and press her body onto him. But now she's a Bayleaf, her tackles are now filled with much more power, hurting Ash in the process. Bayleaf realizes that she needs to control her power when approaching Ash, so she acts more cautiously now. However, one day she approaches Ash as they're preparing the food. Even if Bayleaf is slowly coming closer to Ash, he sees this as her wanting to tackle him, so Ash yells at Bayleaf and tells her to get away from him and stay away from him. This harsh remark stings deeply for Bayleaf, so much that she gets mad, runs away, and intentionally ignores Ash for most of the day. Ash realizes his mistake, so after managing to find Bayleaf, he does his best to regain her trust. Bayleaf continues to ignore Ash until Team Rocket shows up and captures Bayleaf and Pikachu. It's the perfect time for Ash to show Bayleaf how much he cares for her, so he risks his life and slams his body into the glass cage, which thaws Bayleaf's frozen heart, and the power of friendship is all they need to send Team Rocket flying off. Ash officially apologizes to Bayleaf and tells her that she can tackle him whenever she wants, but instead, she learns how to use Body Slam. With a more unbreakable bond with Bayleaf, who's got much stronger moveset, Ash has a powerful weapon in his arsenal to use in his upcoming gym battle. It isn't long until Ash reaches Olivine City, where he aims to earn his 5th badge. He enters the gym and is greeted by gym leader Jasmine, who accepts his 3-on-3 challenge. Jasmine sends out her suspiciously glossy Onix. With Totodile's type advantage, Ash counts on it for the battle. However, Onix seems to be unfazed by any of Totodile's attacks, and the Rock Snake easily beats our little gator. Turns out that's not the real Jasmine that Ash is battling, because the real Jasmine shows up. This kid is Janina, who is Jasmine's apprentice. On top of that, Janina coated her Onix with water repellent wax, so that's why it's incredibly resistant against water attacks. Normally, Jasmine would now take charge and battle Ash, but she's neither physically nor emotionally ready to give Ash a good fight because her Sparkle the Ampharos is not feeling well. The medicine to cure Sparkle's sickness can be purchased in a pharmacy in Cianwood City, so Ash offers to head over to the city and pick the medicine up for Jasmine. But Janina's here anyway, who's also more than willing to pick up the medicine. Ash then learns that Cianwood City's also got a gym, so they decide to travel by ferry alongside Janina to Cianwood City to challenge the gym as Janina runs the errand. Our heroes soon arrive at Cianwood City, where they come across a tough yet mushy macho man with his Machoke. Turns out he's actually the gym leader, Chuck, and he figures out that Ash is there to challenge his gym. Chuck then invites Ash and his friends to his house for a meal, and after that it's time for the battle. The 2-on-2 battle begins with Chuck sending out his Poliwrath, while Ash goes for the type advantage with Pikachu. It starts out with Thunderbolt as Poliwrath manages to dodge. Pikachu whips out more Thunderbolts, and Poliwrath can only dodge so much, and eventually one hits. Pikachu now goes for Quick Attack, but Poliwrath's firm body just bounces the mouse Pokemon away, and it counters with Double Slap, which is shockingly enough to defeat Pikachu. Suddenly, Ash is down to his final Pokemon. He believes he's only got one choice, Bayleaf, even though Noctowl would have been a better matchup against all of Chuck's Pokemon. He sends Bayleaf out anyway as she skillfully dodges Poliwrath's Water Gun. She then retaliates with Razor Leaf, critically damaging Poliwrath, and follows up with Vine Whip, whipping the tadpole Pokemon to the ground. Surprisingly, it still manages to stand, so Bayleaf finishes it off with a Body Slam. Now Chuck is down to his only Machoke. It gives Chuck a boosting Karate Chop attack to help him focus on the battle, so Ash does the same and asks Bayleaf to give him a Body Slam. The battle soon resumes and Machoke goes for Karate Chop, which Bayleaf dodges until one finally hits. Then as Machoke charges in for Cross Chop, Bayleaf stops it with Vine Whip. It now becomes a tug of war between the two Pokemon. Brock suggests releasing the tension of the Vine Whip to make Machoke lose its footing, but Ash rejects the idea, implying he wants to win the battle with brute strength. Machoke eventually manages to pull Bayleaf towards it, enough to grab its body and execute a submission attack, launching Bayleaf into the air. But while mid-air, Bayleaf performs its own version of submission, as it grabs Machoke with its Vine Whip and slams the superpowered Pokemon straight to the ground. One more Body Slam and Razor Leaf and Machoke is knocked out of the battle. Ash deservingly wins his 5th badge, and is even gifted with a Fairy Pass by Chuck's wife, so our gang can explore the World Islands after learning that Jasmine's gonna need a little bit more time before she could battle. It is a torrential adventure around the World Islands, but Ash and Misty set their sights on Red Rock Isle, home of the tri-annual World Cup. It's a competition where water Pokemon battle it out gladiator style in this majestic coliseum with hopes of winning the Mystic Water Prize and getting crowned as the Water Pokemon Alpha Omega. In the preliminary rounds, Ash calls on his Totodile and they sweep their opponents with ease. Both he and Misty make it to the actual tournament, where Ash and Totodile face Christopher and his Kingdra. Totodile was only ever used in one gym battle, so the World Cup truly shows what he's made of, and that is comic relief. Despite battling against a powerful opponent, Totodile just dances through the Hydro Pump and proceeds to finish the battle in the funniest and most unhinged way possible. Ash advances to the second round, and he's surprised to see that he's matched up against none other than his best friend Misty. If we know one thing about Ash vs Misty battles, we know that it's going to be a fun one. But before that, it's important to note that this round is a 2v2 battle and Ash's only water Pokemon on hand is Totodile. It's not like they're gonna bring in Squirtle out of the blue just for the plot, so Ash asks Professor Oak to send in Kingler in exchange for Bayleaf, and she is not happy about it. Anyways, the battle between Ash and Misty begins with Totodile and Poliwhirl out in the battlefield. Totodile has single-handedly carried Ash so far in this competition, but his reign ends now as Poliwhirl, who once fought to see who owns Totodile, now owns Totodile on this battlefield. Now, Ash decides to fight Kanto with Kanto. Last time it battled in a water field, Kingler soloed all of its opponent's Pokemon. Now it creates these massive whirlpools with its Crabhammer and finishes off the blue frog. With one Pokemon left, Misty confidently sends out her core Psyduck. This accidental situation only makes Ash feel assured that he's gonna win, but he must have forgot about Psyduck's special powers for a moment because Kingler grips Psyduck's head so hard, and by the time Ash realizes it, Psyduck's powerful confusion has already activated, quickly knocking Kingler and Ash out of the competition. Following the end of the World Cup, Ash, Misty, and Brock soon reach Ogi Isle, where they reunite with Richie and Sparky. They are both intrigued by reports of a mysterious Pokemon nearby, especially since Ash and his friends saw a shadow of it back when they were blasted off the ship near Blue Rock Isle. Turns out the rumors are true, and the Whirl Islands houses not one, but two Lugia, a parent and its child. But they're not the only ones intrigued by Lugia, because Team Rocket's got a whole, well-crafted plan on catching these legendary Pokemon. And no, it's not our favorite Team Rocket trio, but a deadlier one in Bill, Cassidy, and Dr. Namba. With these intricate machines, Team Rocket is able to power up their Pokemon and capture both Lugia and imprison Ash and his friends. But thanks to Oliver, the kid who's friends with the child Lugia, they're able to escape the prison and prevent Namba's experiment with their Pikachus. Complete chaos ensues in Team Rocket's underwater base as Ash and Richie battle Bob, Cassidy, and the other Team Rocket grunts. It ends in a climactic battle between both Pikachus versus Namba's super enraged Electabuzz. Electabuzz manages both of them really well, so Ash and Richie instead decide to aim for Namba's machine to stop Electabuzz's enragement and defeat it. They soon free Lugia, reunite the parent and its child, and curb Team Rocket's evil plans. And after all those whirling experiences, Ash, Misty, and Brock finally arrive in Olivine City, where Ash can finally challenge Jasmine to an official gym battle. Like the Cianwood gym battle, the Olivine gym battle is also a 2-on-2 match. Jasmine starts out with Magnemite, while Ash decides to fight Electric with Electric and calls for Pikachu. Both Pokemon dodge each other's attacks in the first turn, showcasing how fast electric Pokemon can be. Ash has had enough with all these dodging, so he commands Pikachu to take the incoming Thunder Wave until Magnemite's depleted most of its energy. This gives Pikachu the opening to land its next Thunderbolt, but Magnemite is not finished yet as it attacks with another Thunder Wave. Pikachu avoids it with Quick Attack, flustering Magnemite as soon as the attack hits. It's game over for Magnemite. Now Jasmine's down to her ace Pokemon, Steelix. Pikachu attacks it with Thunderbolt, and for some reason it seems to be doing some damage to Steelix. But Jasmine's actually doing what Ash did to her earlier, which is to deplete most of Pikachu's energy. Steelix now goes for the offense as Pikachu dodges the first Iron Tail. The second Iron Tail comes in next, but this time Pikachu's too tired to dodge, rendering him unable to battle. Ash puts all his trust in his final Pokemon, that being his Fire-type Cyndaquil. Steelix uses Sandstorm enshrouding itself in a whirl of sand, as Cyndaquil tries to penetrate it with Flamethrower, but to no avail. When the dust clears, Steelix is gone, most likely having used Dig to hide on the ground. It unearths itself and lands its mark on Cyndaquil, but misses the next Iron Tail. Cyndaquil now goes for Flamethrower, but Steelix uses Sandstorm Dig as a counter shield. Steelix reappears, launching a series of Iron Tail, but Cyndaquil dodges them all, with Cyndaquil even using Flamethrower at the wall to bounce off. Another Iron Tail comes, but Cyndaquil fires a smokescreen to block their view. But as Sandstorm blows the smokescreen away, Cyndaquil is gone. Turns out Cyndaquil is hiding in one of the holes, and it strikes Steelix with a devastating Flamethrower right in the jugular. Cyndaquil tries hiding again, but Steelix baits it out by launching its Iron Tail to the ground. Steelix has Cyndaquil backed into the corner, and this time it could no longer dodge the next Iron Tail. Cyndaquil could hardly get up, with its flames starting to go out, but the little fire in Cyndaquil's heart refuses to give up as it continues the battle and avoids a fatal crunch attack. Ash commands it to use Flamethrower, and Jasmine of course just counter shields it with Sandstorm. But Cyndaquil keeps on firing its flames stronger and stronger, until eventually, the sand is burned hot enough that it becomes a whirling fire. Steelix is burned to a crisp, no longer able to battle, and with that, Ash secures the Mineral Badge. Ash is doing a phenomenal job in the Johto gyms. Despite having a new team, he manages to hold his own against trainers of the region. That being said, his team is full of tiny warriors is about to lose another member, because back in Pallet Town, Professor Oak and Tracer are having a tough time maintaining the peace after a Hoppip family line has immigrated there. So they ask Ash if he can send his Bulbasaur to Pallet Town so it could be the Coral's warden and manage the politics among Pokemon families. Ash complies to the request, knowing Bulbasaur is a natural leader in the forest, but the happiest one in all of this is definitely Heracross. They also pass by Ecruteak City on their way to Mahogany Town, and reunite with Sakura, who now has evolved her Eevee into an Espeon, as well as meet Yusin, who they learn more about the history of Ecruteak City's Ho-Oh and the legendary beasts. Yusin's dream is to one day encounter Suicune, but Ash then claims that he's already met Suicune once when they first arrived in Johto. Yusin's jealousy triggers him to get mad at Ash, but when Team Rocket breaks one of the sacred crystal balls, the wild Pokemon in the area are infuriated and begin spewing their webs around Tin Tower. Ash then tries to reason with the angered wild Pokemon, but to no avail. As the wild Tangela go for an attack, Suicune appears in front of them and saves the day. It dismantles the webs and restores the peace in the forest. This confirms that it truly is Suicune who Ash, Misty, and Brock saw at the beginning of their Johto journey. As each other's main rivals, Ash and Gary rarely saw each other in Johto, surprisingly. In fact, the last time they battled was still at the end of the Orange Island season, but one day Ash sees Gary riding on a skateboard that's being pulled by his Arcanine. Ash wastes no time and challenges him to a battle, but Gary refuses, saying he's preparing for a big race. Ash is instantly curious with this, so he also joins the Extreme Pokemon race. He spends the whole afternoon practicing his skateboarding with Bayleaf, his only Pokemon that looks viable for the competition. The extra challenge is that they have to carry these dummy Pokemon eggs while racing. The day of the competition comes, the race starts, and Ash and Gary make it past the initial stampede. Gary finds himself leading the pack with Ash right behind him. They soon reach the station where they'll have to start carrying a Pokemon egg, and after dealing with Team Rocket, they both exit the station together as their opponents are starting to catch up. Ash and Gary traverse through the winding road, and Arcanine gains enough speed to go ahead, so Ash quickly thinks of a plan to catch up, and that is to take a shortcut by jumping off a cliff. Ash and Gary are now side by side as they inch closer to the finish line. Both Bayleaf and Arcanine are giving it their all, but Bayleaf uses Vine Whip on herself to make a big jump, barely crossing the finish line first and winning Ash the competition. Ash has finally defeated his rival in something, albeit not in a battle. His prize for winning is a trophy and a very special Pokemon egg, which Ash really takes care of every day until it later hatches into this cute and energetic little Phanpy. As Ash, Misty, and Brock approach Mahogany Town, Pikachu and Togepi suddenly feel weak, as well as other Pokemon in the forest. When they check out the lake, a red Gyarados pops out, scaring them to death. Not long after, a bunch of Team Rocket members show up. No, not Jesse, James, and Meowth, but high-ranking Officer Tyson and his grunts. He sends out his Fearow, prompting Ash to battle with his Totodile, but like the other Pokemon earlier, Totodile gets weak and is not in the right condition to battle. As Fearow charges in for a Drill Peck, a sudden attack comes out of nowhere, revealing to be from a Dragonite owned by none other than Pokemon G-Man and Kanto and Johto champion himself, Lance. Lance protects Ash, Misty, and Brock, and deals with Team Rocket by himself. Lance suspects that Team Rocket is onto some shady mischief in Lake of Rage, and it has something to do with Red Gyarados. Ash offers to lend a hand, but Lance refuses, saying that it's too dangerous for them. As it turns out, Team Rocket is conducting a radio wave technology research that aims to force Pokemon to evolve, and the Red Gyarados is the first victim of this research. So to perfect the research, Team Rocket captures the Red Gyarados. Ash and Misty try to send their Pokemon to save Gyarados, but Professor Sebastian commands to broadcast the Evolution Inductment Wave, which weakens both Totodile and Poliwhirl. Tyson catches them off guard, sending Ash, Misty, and Brock to Team Rocket's prison. Good thing Jessie accidentally unlocks their cuffs, allowing our heroes to escape. As Team Rocket tries to chase after them, Lance, who has been playing undercover in Team Rocket's headquarters, saves Ash and his friends. Lance destroys Team Rocket's Evolution Inductment Ray, and then heads towards Mahogany Town to thwart Sebastian's research plans on Gyarados. On their way, Ash hops out of Lance's car and tries reasoning with the enraged Gyarados, who was able to escape from Team Rocket, but instead he gets a Hydro Pump as a response. As Team Rocket tries to recapture Gyarados, Ash sends out his Bayleaf to cut through the net. Ash then calls on Pikachu to handle Jessie, James, and Meowth, as Lance is battling Tyson. Ash and Pikachu manage to blast Team Rocket off and free Gyarados from their grasp. Gyarados, still enraged, prepares to fire off a Hyper Beam directed at Ash and his friends, but a certain Ice Beam blocks the attack and freezes the water around Gyarados. The Ice Beam came from Dugong, owned by this old man. As soon as Lance defeats Tyson, he heads straight to Gyarados, battles it with his Dragonite, and finds a way to catch it, putting an end to its madness. Everyone's safe for now, as Ash, Misty, and Brock finally arrive in Mahogany Town. As soon as they reach the gym, they learn that this old guy with a Dugong is actually the Mahogany Town gym leader. His name is Price, and he's as cold as ice and hates the idea of trainers and Pokemon being emotionally attached to each other. But Ash challenges his ideals, saying that trainers and Pokemon need to understand each other and become good friends so they can work together and battle at their best. So Price challenges Ash to a pre-gym battle. Only by defeating him can Ash earn the right to battle him at the gym. Except that he foolishly calls for Phanpy against Price's Dugong, so it goes down to a single Ice Beam. Soon later, Ash and Price find themselves falling from a cliff thanks to Team Rocket's antics. So Ash quick-thinkingly sends out his Noctowl to save Price and his Totodile to save himself by cushioning their landing with the water gun. Now trapped in a new environment, Ash and Price get to know each other better. It's here where Price finds a leg bracelet that once belonged to his Piloswine, his main partner when he was young, who suddenly ran away when they got burned from a battle. That explains why Price became this cold-hearted. He felt betrayed by his Piloswine and decided not to get close to any of his Pokemon ever since. Ash and Price go further into the cave until they find a room that's filled with ice. And inside there, Price sees his old buddy Piloswine frozen, holding some herbs that are used to cure burns. They realize that Piloswine wasn't trying to run away. Instead, it was trying to help Price but got into trouble while doing so. With that, Ash calls Cyndaquil to thaw the frozen ice as Price's frozen heart begins to thaw. Pikachu then sends out some shockwaves, reviving the swine Pokemon and reuniting it with its long-lost trainer. With that, Price is back to his younger self, one who loves his Pokemon and isn't afraid to show it. And the next day, Ash is ready to challenge Price for badge number 7. Ash is welcome to the icy water field, and again it's a 2v2 match. Price sends out his Dugong as Ash for some reason decides to go with Cyndaquil. The Fire Mouse launches a flamethrower, but Dugong hides underwater and fires an Ice Beam. Cyndaquil tries to dodge, but the ice is too slippery so it gets caught and frozen by the attack. The next Aurora Beam threatens to finish it, but Cyndaquil blasts a fire on its back, shattering the ice and allowing it to dodge the attack. Dugong then dives underwater, but Ash has some tricks up his sleeves and commands Cyndaquil to go underwater as well. Now Dugong charges in with Headbutt, but Cyndaquil launches a powerful close-range Swift, and one more flamethrower is enough for the win. Price soon summons his long-lost partner, the recently revived Piloswine. Being not so well versed in the water, Piloswine stirs up a freezing cold blizzard attack, which not only freezes the field's water, but also hinders the sight of its opponents. As the blizzard is brewing, Price calls for a takedown attack, knocking Cyndaquil out. Pikachu's up next and aims to win this match with speed. However, he couldn't make full use of his speed because of the slippery ice. Pikachu gets hit by a furry attack, and then has to endure a blizzard as he tries to fight back with thunder, but Piloswine seems unfazed. I mean, duh, it's supposed to be immune to electric attacks. Now Ash realizes that these ice pillars can be of good use, so he commands Pikachu to use agility and slide his way evading Piloswine's blizzard attacks, using these ice pillars to change direction. Pikachu then finds an opening to slide under Piloswine and attacks it with direct contact thunder. However, Price instructs it to use rest, which means Piloswine's gaining back to its full health. The newly re-energized swine Pokemon finds the strength to go full force with a series of attacks, severely hurting Pikachu. But Pikachu gets back on its feet and lands a full body quick attack. He follows up with a fully powered Thunderbolt, but all it does is fire Piloswine up even more. Piloswine then charges in with Takedown, but Pikachu climbs up its tusks and serves it an electrifying thunder attack to its face, breaking the ice, soaking Piloswine wet. Soon another Thunderbolt inflicts even more damage this time. However, Piloswine still has the energy to fight back with Furry Attack, as Pikachu refuses to give up and launches another Thunder. Both Pokemon are left exhausted, and just as Pikachu prepares for his next attack, Price throws in the towel. Literally, because he decides that Piloswine has had enough, especially since this is the first battle in like 30 years. And I agree, the battle was starting to feel repetitive at this point, and there really wasn't that much of a point in continuing. So Ash reluctantly but gladly takes his Glacier badge and moves on to his next adventure. On their way to Blackthorn City, Ash gets through a lot of adventures, some of them quite uneventful, but there are a couple of standouts, like an encounter with Zapdos, a reunion with Clefairy and their spaceship that they once saw on Mount Moon very early in their journeys, a super enjoyable battle with Team Rocket's Venusaur, Charizard, and Blastoise in a rental park, and of course the iconic episode of when Magician Lily accidentally transforms Ash into Pikachu. After all these, Ash and his friends soon reach Blackthorn City, where they meet Gym Leader Claire and Gym Assistant Kaburagi. After watching Claire perform a traditional ritual with the Dragon Fang, Ash is catered to an official battle with the Dragon Trainer. The battle begins with Pikachu vs Kingdra. Pikachu's electric attacks seem to be doing nothing against Kingdra, so it fights back with Twister, trapping Pikachu in the vortex. With Ash struggling to land an effective attack on Kingdra, he decides to switch to Noctowl. At first it does a great job using its psychic powers to control Kingdra, but a deadly Hydro Pump lands its mark, almost taking Noctowl out of the match. But as Kingdra prepares to pump the finishing Hydro Pump, the emergency alarm rings, signaling intruders in the treasure room that guards the sacred Dragon Fang. Turns out it's Team Rocket who's behind this, so Claire, Kaburagi, Ash, Missy, and Brock chase after them in the Dragon's Den and down the waterfall into the Dragon Holy Land. Team Rocket is saved by a Dragonite, who they quickly make friends with as they tell it that they're trying to protect the Dragon Fang from the evil ones, those being Claire and the Twerps. So as soon as Claire and the Twerps arrive, Dragonite fires a Hyper Beam at them and flies Team Rocket and the Dragon Fang away. But just after that, a familiar face flies down. It's Ash's Charizard. It's been a long time since they last saw each other. Charizard's here because Liza often brings the Charizard from the Charizard Valley to the Dragon Holy Land to train. They also learn that Liza is childhood friends with Claire, and Claire's actually heard of Ash's Charizard before. Not only that, but it seems that Ash's Charizard is now in a romantic relationship with Liza's Charla. With additional reinforcements, they now continue their quest of catching Team Rocket. They figure out that Dragonite took Team Rocket to the Dragon Shrine, which houses the Prayer Flame. But while Dragonite is taking a snooze, Team Rocket sneaks inside the Dragon Shrine and attempts to steal the Prayer Flame. However, the flame spreads to James' hands, causing him to throw the Prayer Flame into the field. This sparks a fire in the forest, which terribly angers Dragonite. You see, this Dragonite once belonged to the first gym leader of Blackthorn City, and it's passionate at protecting the Dragon Holy Land, just like its late trainer. So it's now in a state of deep outrage. Fortunately for Team Rocket, Charizard's flamethrower stops Dragonite's Hyper Beam from causing their doom. Claire, Misty, and Brock use their Pokemon to extinguish the fire. Liza and Charla ensure the safety of their Pokemon, while Ash is the one who deals with Dragonite. But Charizard couldn't keep up with Dragonite alone, so Claire steps into battle alongside Ash. She comes up with a plan to have her Dragonair summon Thunderclouds so that Pikachu could use a powerful Thunder attack while Charizard contains a Thunder Dragonite in a Fire Spin. Dragonite falls into the water, and when it rises, it's no longer in a state of outrage. They manage to restore the peace in the forest and retrieve the Dragon Fang. And although Dragonite is saddened by the aftermath of the chaos, time will soon heal the fields of the Dragon Holy Land. So with that crazy adventure behind them, Ash finally gets out his rematch with Claire, this time with no interruptions. For this monumental 3-on-3 battle, Ash brings his all-star team, arguably the 3 strongest Pokemon at the time. It's his first time actually battling a Dragon Specialist, and the 8th gym at that, so he definitely needs all the tools he can to win this battle. Ash begins the battle with Snorlax, who's facing Claire's Kingdra. Snorlax begins with a classic Hyper Beam, but Kingdra evades with agility. None of its moves can penetrate Snorlax's tanky body though. But when the battle starts taking place in the water, Kingdra starts gaining the upper hand, landing a Hydro Pump on its face and a massive Hyper Beam. Snorlax keeps going and tries body slamming Kingdra, but the buoyant force of the water nullifies the impact of the move. Claire commands Kingdra to launch a Hydro Pump when Snorlax comes out of the air, but Ash smartly calls Snorlax to jump as hard as it can and lean back to avoid the attack. This doesn't stop Kingdra from landing a Swift though, as Snorlax struggles to take control of the match. At this point, Kingdra's strength is starting to wear out. It misses a Hyper Beam when Snorlax dives into the water. Now that it's vulnerable because it's recharging, Snorlax uses the opportunity to land a devastating blow with Ice Punch, securing the first win of the match. Claire sends out her second Dragon Pokemon, Gyarados. Wait, that's not Dragon, as Ash stays with Snorlax. The sleeping Pokemon spews a Hyper Beam with the atrocious Pokemon countering with Hydro Pump. Unfortunately, the water type proves to be stronger, as Snorlax could no longer launch another attack, so the next Dragon Breath and Hyper Beam deem it unable to battle. Honestly, Snorlax did so well, taking a ton of attacks before getting knocked out. It's now Pikachu's turn, a smart choice given the type advantage. Gyarados tries a Hyper Beam, but Pikachu dodges it with Quick Attack and scores a direct hit. Pikachu then goes for the super effective Thunderbolt, but Gyarados' Dragon Breath makes for a great barrier. It follows up with Hydro Pump and then Wrap, dealing a good chunk of damage to our boy. Ash now calls for Thunderbolt, and Claire smartly commands Gyarados to release Pikachu, reducing the damage of the attack. Now this battle turns into cat and mouse chase as Gyarados charges in with a series of bites, while Pikachu tries to dodge them all. Pikachu is soon backed into the corner, and Gyarados aims to finish the battle with Hydro Pump, but Pikachu quickly uses agility, allowing it to climb the water and perform a semi-volt tackle Thunderbolt, finishing off the Sea Serpent. Claire is now down to her final Pokemon, her ace, her majestic Dragonair. Pikachu starts off recklessly with a bunch of Thunderbolts, but Dragonair dodges them all. This is all part of Ash's plan to lure Dragonair closer to the ground, making it vulnerable to the next Quick Attack. But the plan backfires as Dragonair just dodges the move and finishes Pikachu off with Hyper Beam. Ash's final Pokemon is, you guessed it, Charizard. This Pokemon has trained a lot with Liza, so this battle will test how much is learned through its time in the Charpacific Valley. The roof of the battle arena opens up, allowing the battle to take to the skies, but for now, Charizard warms up with Flamethrower, which Dragonair avoids by hiding underwater. Dragonair keeps on avoiding the fire attacks, but Claire hardly notices that the water of the pool is slowly evaporating with each Flamethrower that comes its way. Dragonair then lands a Dragon Rage from underwater, which does some good damage on Charizard. Next, we see a collision between Hyper Beam and Fire Spin, with neither side giving an inch. Ash again goes for Flamethrower as Claire aims to spam dodging underwater until all the water gets evaporated, leaving Dragonair with nowhere to hide. With that, Claire has no choice but to have an aerial battle with Ash. Charizard launches a Flamethrower, which Dragonair cancels out with Safeguard for some reason, then retaliates with Iron Tail. But its second Iron Tail is blocked by Charizard, which signals that it's the perfect time to execute its finisher, Seismic Toss. Dragonair tries its best to counter with Dragon Rage, and it's successful at doing so. Charizard attempts another Seismic Toss, so Dragonair just uses another Dragon Rage to counter, but this time Ash calls for Fire Spin, enshrouding them both with the Raging Fiery Ring. A Flaming Seismic Toss is what it's called, and Dragonair is unable to battle. Ash has finally defeated a Dragon-type specialist, and it deservingly earns his 8th and final gym badge. So Ash seeks to spend the remaining time training his Pokemon for the League. In Coastline City, he meets and battles Dorian, a Water-type specialist who aspires to become a gym leader someday. His prototype gym is an underwater gym, so it's the perfect place for Ash to train his Pokemon. He challenges Dorian to an underwater battle with Totodile vs Lantern. Totodile is shown to be really quick underwater. It manages to land a powerful Slash attack, but as soon as Spark Attack hits, the final takedown takes it out of the battle. And then later, Ash visits the Marine Pokemon Lab to retrieve a Pokemon egg for Professor Elm since they're headed to New Barktown anyway. It just so happens that a family of Lapras is on their migrating season, and it's the family of his Lapras from the Orange Islands. So Ash reunites with his old friend, and the little one is now grown up that Ash could hardly recognize it. And it's now the leader of its pack. As for the Pokemon egg, it's said to have been rescued from Pokemon poachers after it was stolen in a Pokemon preserve in Mount Silver. That being said, Ash is instructed by Professor Elm to deliver the Pokemon egg to him. Ash expects that this egg contains a legendary Pokemon, so he can't wait for it to hatch. He even puts it under his shirt and warms it up with his body. Soon enough, the egg hatches and it's a Larvitar. Missy notices that the Larvitar isn't moving, so Brock checks its vitals and realizes that its body temperature is too low, so they take the newly hatched Pokemon to the Pokemon Center. As Ash spends the night hugging Larvitar, he gets visions, or perhaps he's having a dream, seeing the world from Larvitar's perspective when he was just an egg. For a moment, Ash is able to experience all the hardships Larvitar faced as an egg. Not long after, Larvitar awakens, although it's still not very responsive. So Ash takes it outside and introduces Larvitar to the world, like a dad. But when Team Rocket captures Ash and Pikachu, Larvitar is able to unleash its hidden powers, literally a hidden power to save Ash and Pikachu and send Team Rocket flying off. With Ash's guidance, Larvitar is able to appreciate the beauty and nature of Pokemon, although it's still not used to other humans yet. Ash, Missy, and Brock then travel to New Barktown where he officially registers for the Johto League. And since the Silver Conference is held on Mount Silver, Professor Elm entrusts Larvitar to Ash to bring it back to where it came from, the Pokemon Preserve Center. Larvitar spends a number of adventures with Ash, including one where they meet Entei. They also meet Casey, who has now a fully evolved Meganium, and a baby Pokemon Elekid who Larvitar befriends with. And remember when she said she wanted to battle Ash in the Johto League? Nope, that's not happening. Ash also battles a trainer named Satchel, but his Cyndaquil loses to his Magby. Then one day, a random unknown lands right on Missy's hands. The unknown is sick and upset from being separated from its friends. Of course, Larvitar can relate to this, so it feels for Unknown. But when Team Rocket attacks them, Unknown teleports them to a different place. But this place couldn't be any more bizarre. They work their way through this weird dimension where their Pokemon are bigger than them, a dimension where they see fragments of themselves and their adventures. They soon realize that they actually made it inside Larvitar's memories. Here they find out about Larvitar's past and how it was stolen by the poachers and how the poachers attacked its mother, Tyranitar. They then find their way out of the dimension, and as Unknown reunites with his friends, Larvitar too dreams of reuniting with its mother. So when our heroes reach Mount Silver, Larvitar's mother shows up, but having developed distrust for humans, she attacks Ash, Misty, and Brock. The Pokemon poachers are also here, still attempting to capture Tyranitar. They are successful at it, even managing to capture everyone else except Larvitar. This causes Larvitar to let out a loud war cry, awakening its mother's inner powers, allowing everyone to escape. With that, the Pokemon poachers are arrested and Larvitar is finally in the safe arms of its mothers. With the mission to bring Larvitar back to its home finally accomplished, Ash has one final mission left, and that's to win the Silver Conference. And here it is, Silvertown, home of this year's Johto League Conference. Outside, people are waiting for the lighting of the torch, a torch that houses Ho-Oh's sacred flame, which signals the beginning of this prestigious event. However, unforeseen circumstances have led to the delay of the lighting of the torch. Turns out a wild Sneasel together with its friends Machop and Machoke are mischievously guarding the flame. Many trainers have tried retrieving the flame, but they all end up in the hospital. Even Ash tries battling it with Totodile, but it sends Ash flying with a Shadow Ball. Good thing the best boy Harrison is here. Yes, the man, the myth, the legend, Harrison, Harrison of this so-called Hoenn region has come here to save the day. When no other trainer can do it, he for sure can. Harrison sends out a Pokemon we've never seen before. It's called Blaziken, one that's native to the Hoenn region. This Blaziken makes quick work of Sneasel, and Harrison captures the Sharp Claw Pokemon for himself. The Sacred Flame is finally free from its guards, so the Silver Conference can finally commence. In the end, Harrison reveals that he's also participating in the Johto League, so Ash has got another rival to look forward to in the battling in the League Arena. The next day, Ash is greeted by his longtime friend Gary, who just arrived in town. This time he's confident but not cocky, snarky yet rational. Gary points out the naivety in Ash and implies that he's come so far from the old Gary. The athlete screening is scheduled today where trainers engage in 3 one-on-one battles, then upon judging trainers from the roster of 200, they're whittled down to just top 48. Ash's first battle is against Salvador, and it's a fun showcase of Rodent vs. Rodent. Pikachu attempts to use Thunderbolt, but Furret evades and encloses him with Double Team. Furret lands a Swift Attack, but Pikachu finds its footing. This time he uses Quick Attack, but Furret keeps on dodging, skillfully using Dig as a defense and offense. Pikachu is in a really bad spot right now, but then, thanks to its quick thinking, Pikachu jumps on Furret's back and never letting go. Furret tries to shake him away, but Pikachu holds on tight. He fires off a direct contact Thunderbolt. Now Furret's exhausted, so one final quick attack gives the victory to Pikachu and Ash. After the battle, Ash quickly checks to see if Furret's okay. He and Salvador exchange nice words and hope to battle each other again someday. Ash then proceeds to win the next 2 battles with Phanpy and Cyndaquil, meaning that he easily advances to the top 48 together with Gary and Harrison. Later that night, Ash and Gary meet by the lake under the full moon, and Gary reminisces about the day when they first began their journey. He mentions to Ash how he woke up late, and although the only Pokemon left was the disobedient Pikachu, it's now become his best Pokemon. He also wonders if all those things never happened, like if Ash woke up on time, they might have ended up in completely different places with completely different journeys right now. Gary says how the future holds many possibilities for the both of them, but that doesn't change the present, where he aims to be anyone that gets in his way, including Ash. But Ash rebuttals and declares that he's going to be numero uno at the end of the tournament. That further sparks their deep friendly rivalry, and it only gets us viewers even more excited for the inevitable battle. But even before that, they first have to officially open the tournament with the lighting of the League Cauldron. Thanks to Team Rocket entering the runner, it is Ash who runs to the stage and ignites the cauldron with Ho-Oh's Sacred Flame. Now that the tournament is officially open, Ash is matched up against two other trainers, Macy and Jackson, or for the cultured ones, Vincent. You see, in the top 48, trainers are matched in triads, where they partake in round robin battles. The trainers from each triad that earns the most points will move on to the top 16. Outside, Macy shows up and immediately challenges Ash to a warm-up battle, but then Team Rocket snatches both their Pokemon away. Macy and Ash run down the hill to try to catch them, but Macy trips and falls before getting caught in Ash's arms. This makes her develop some sort of crush towards Ash. Ash soon catches Team Rocket and with the help of Bayleaf retrieves both their Pokemon. Macy tries to take Ash on a lunch date, but she gets fooled by Misty. Ash is oblivious to this mini rivalry as he just heads out and trains his Pokemon and formulates a battle plan against Macy. He notices that most of Macy's Pokemon are fire types, so he plans on using both his Totodile and Kingler. However, right before the battle, Kingler gets injured by these random Voltorb, deeming it unable to battle for the day. With Totodile's only water type, the situation looks bad for Ash, and it's like they're just going to bring in Squirtle out of the blue just for the plot. Oh wait, they did this time! Officer Jenny saves the day and brings a battle-ready Squirtle with her to join Ash's team after the little Squirt saw is running up the stage carrying the torch. The battle with Macy soon begins and she heats up the crowd with her Slugma, to which Ash answers with Totodile. Slugma may be tricky, but Totodile scores a great hit right on the mark, causing Macy to instantly switch to Electabuzz, her main counter against water Pokemon. But Ash planned ahead of this and brought Phanpy specifically for this battle. Phanpy is unfazed by any of Electabuzz's attacks, so Macy switches back to Slugma. Phanpy then dishes out some super effective moves like Earthquake and Rollout, then minimizes the damage dealt by Flamethrower by using Defense Curl. One more takedown later, and Slugma is out of the match. Macy sends out her third Pokemon, Quilava, and instead of saving Phanpy for Electabuzz, Ash decides not to switch and Phanpy pays the price. Ash sends back in his Totodile, so Macy rightfully switches back to Electabuzz. With his Electabuzz counter gone, Ash is in trouble as Totodile succumbs to a single Thunder Punch. This leaves Ash with his final Pokemon, Squirtle. With his firefighting training, Squirtle lands a fast and powerful water gun, which shuts Electabuzz's chance to attack. Then when it gets hit by Iron Tail, Squirtle pulls off an upside down water gun followed by the finishing Skull Bash. Macy is now down to her last Pokemon too, and despite its type disadvantage, Quilava's Flame Wheel is crazy strong. First we get a collision of Swift and Bubble, creating this huge cloud of smoke. And we know Squirtle's used to dealing with smoke on a daily basis, so it manages to find its target and score a water gun on Quilava despite the barrier. However, a quick attack from Quilava causes Squirtle to land on its shell and it couldn't get up. So as Quilava charges in for a finishing Flame Wheel, Ash showcases how well he knows his Pokemon, as he calls for Hydro Pump, allowing Squirtle to execute its iconic signature version of the move. Quilava is defeated and that's one opponent down. Ash's next battle soon arrives, and it's against Jackson, a trainer from New Barktown who's also friends with Professor Elm. They meet each other in the Pokemon Center and exchange cordial greetings. Soon later they hear that a Bulbasaur and a Meganium are fighting outside. Ash and Jackson realize that the Pokemon in question are their Bulbasaur Meganium plus their Squirtle and Azumarill. Good thing Best Boy Harrison quickly ends the fight with his Miltank's Heal Bell. And with the help of Gary telling Officer Jenny that the Pokemon were just sparring and not fighting, Ash and Jackson are saved from potential disqualification. After Ash studies Jackson's team and prepares for the fight, the battle soon commences. Since Jackson lost to Macy in the battle, it means that Ash needs to at least tie this one to move on to the top 16. The first round is Pikachu vs Pikablu. The battle begins showing off Pikachu's speed dodging Azumarill's attacks, as well as Azumarill's defensive capabilities preventing Thunderbolt from hitting it. But Pikachu gets caught off guard as Azumarill hits it with Icy Wind. Azumarill then goes for Iron Tail, but Pikachu endures the hit and holds onto its tail and delivers the finishing Thunder attack. Jackson's second Pokemon is a shiny Magneton. At first, both electric Pokemon send their attacks, which barely damage each other. But when Pikachu goes for a quick attack, Magneton wraps it with Thunder Wave, setting up for a front and center tri-attack that takes Pikachu out of the battle. Ash then sends out a Cyndaquil for the type advantage. It does a great job confusing Magneton with Smokescreen and hitting it with Swift, but when the Magnet Trio performs a double team, it leaves Cyndaquil vulnerable to the upcoming Thunder Wave from all sides. And one tri-attack later, Cyndaquil's flames are out. With one Pokemon left, Ash pulls his final trust on Bulbasaur, the very first Pokemon he caught that's still on his team. With his experience wardening Oak's Koro, Bulbasaur sure has its eyes on all sides. So when Magneton attempts another one of its Double Team and Thunder Wave plus Tri-Attack combos, Bulbasaur just whips all of Magneton until it's only the real one left. All the attacks that come its way, Bulbasaur manages to evade, including a Tri-Attack where it avoids by using its Vine Whip to jump. Finally, Bulbasaur gives Magneton a taste of its own medicine and traps it with Leech Seed and ends the battle with a spinning Vine Whip. Jackson's final Pokemon is his beloved partner, Meganium. Bulbasaur and Meganium have a beef to settle, so this is the perfect place for that. Bulbasaur uses Razor Leaf, so Meganium counters with the same attack, but stronger. Next is a showdown of Vine Whip, and Meganium just has more raw power given that it's a fully evolved Pokemon. But what Bulbasaur has is its speed. It manages to evade Meganium's barrage of Body Slams before striking a rapid Razor Leaf. But Jackson tricks Ash into calling Bulbasaur to jump with Vine Whip again, which leaves Bulbasaur unprotected from Meganium's own Razor Leaf. And from that point on, the battle just gets more brutal, as Bulbasaur gives Meganium an overhead throw and even chokes it with Vine Whip, while Meganium also fights back with its own sharp attacks. The battle has now turned personal. They're no longer battling for the sake of winning. As Brock puts it, both Bulbasaur and Meganium are battling for their pride as grass Pokemon. Neither Pokemon are trying to dodge attacks, they're taking them head on as if provoking the other to give it more. Ash and Jackson finally decide to end the battle with Solar Beam Showdown, and neither grass type comes out victorious. The battle ends in a draw, which means that it's Ash who moves on to the top 16. Last time Ash ended his Kanto League journey in the top 16, and now he's back here, but way stronger and smarter than he was before. This battle is a huge step towards his dream of becoming a Pokemon Master. But there's one person who seeks to stop him from advancing, his childhood friend and rival Gary Oak. In a twist of fate, Ash and Gary are pitted against each other right in this round. Before the battle, Gary shows Ash a broken Pokeball. It's a keepsake from the beginning of their journey. Ash and Gary accidentally fished the same Pokeball at the same time. These two wouldn't give in, and as they reel in harder and harder, the Pokeball broke into two pieces. Since then, both Ash and Gary have carried that piece of Pokeball as a good luck charm, and as a reminder of their friendship and rivalry. The fishing incident may look like a draw, but Gary considers tying with Ash just as bad as losing. With that, Ash spends the entire night online doing his research on Gary and his Pokemon, making sure he's fully prepared for the battle, except that he basically gets no sleep. Just before the battle, some familiar faces show up. First, it's Charizard with his fiery entrance. Then soon comes Delia and Professor Oak, who are stoked to watch their loved ones battle out in the Silver Conference. Backstage, Harrison gives Ash some words of encouragement as he wins his own battle, saying that he's waiting for Ash in the next round. And soon it's time for the long-awaited battle. The battlefield is a rock field, and it starts with Gary's Nidoqueen versus Ash's Tauros. Nidoqueen creates a fissure with Rock Smash, but Tauros blasts all the rocks away. But when Tauros charges with Horn Attack, Nidoqueen grabs his horns and delivers a lethal Hyper Beam, quickly taking Tauros out of the battle. It's not a good start for Ash, so now he sends out his Heracross. Welcome back, old bud. So Gary switches out to the advantageous Magmar, who quickly lashes its fire-type attacks, but Heracross knows its way around and lands a series of Fury Swipes. Then when Magnemar delivers a unique Fire Blast, followed by a Flamethrower Kiss of Death, Heracross just blows it away, as if it's immune to fire. With that, Heracross takes revenge of the powerful Megahorn, scoring Ash his first win. Not wanting to give Ash any form of advantage, Gary sends out his ace, his best friend, his very first Pokemon, Blastoise. As the tortoise launches his Hydro Pump, Heracross tries shielding itself behind the rocks. But of course, rock is weak to water, and Heracross is doused to oblivion. Against a strong Pokemon like Blastoise, Ash decides to go for his secret weapon, Muck. With its amorphous body, Muck manages to trap Blastoise while it's inside the shell, but Blastoise can still use Hydro Pump, severely damaging Muck and prompting Ash to switch his Pokemon into Bayleaf, who's got the type advantage. Ash believes that Bayleaf could turn this match around for him, but instead it's Bayleaf who gets turned around and around and around. Yeah, no one can survive that. Ash is now down by 2 Pokemon, and during the halftime break, Pikachu proposes that he wants to battle, which makes sense because Electric is super effective against water, but Ash already registered his Pokemon for this match, so Pikachu is not allowed. In fact, this is the only major league battle where Pikachu isn't around. The second half of this match soon begins with Ash's Snorlax versus Gary's Arcanine. Arcanine may be one of Gary's powerhouses, but we all know Snorlax never exits the battlefield without a win, so with a single Hyper Beam, the legendary beast is toast. Nidoqueen is now back in the field and uses her tail to jump, a strategy Gary learned from Ash's Bulbasaur. Nidoqueen lands a double kick, but Snorlax isn't satisfied with only one win, so it's shown to be quite nimble and retaliates with Ice Punch, so Nidoqueen is down for the count. The score is now even, but Gary brings out his team's underrated warrior Scizor. It's fast and dodges Snorlax's Hyper Beam, so our big fat glob couldn't do anything but take all of Scizor's attacks until it goes back to its slumber. From one big fat slob to the next, we have Muck again. This time Muck manages to stop Scizor's Metal Claw with its body, but Gary plans around it and calls Scizor to launch Muck into the air, leaving it vulnerable to the finishing Swift Attack. And just like that, Ash is down to its last Pokemon, and it's none other than Charizard. All its training in the Charcific Valley is put to the test right here and right now, and Charizard proves that it's gotten a lot stronger even since the battle with Claire. It finishes off Scizor with a single 4x super effective Fire-type attack. Now Gary sends in his Golem, and this time he's the one with the 4x advantage. Ash attempts to call for Charizard's iconic signature move Seismic Toss, but Golem's too heavy, so it doesn't work. So Charizard just fires a Dragon Rage against the rolling Golem, bringing Gary down to his final Pokemon, Blastoise. It's a battle for the ages, Ash vs Gary, red vs blue, fire vs water. Blastoise may have the type advantage, but this battle is far from over. Charizard begins a battle on the back foot as Blastoise easily defends itself from its fire attacks and lands a couple of direct hits in Charizard's way. But when Charizard flies high, both it and Blastoise blast their attacks towards each other, none of them hitting. But Ash notices that whenever Charizard spews its flamethrower on the battlefield, the rocks begin to heat up and melt. So Ash comes up with an out-of-the-box strategy and causes Charizard to burn the entire battlefield. This causes all the rocks to melt, surrounding Blastoise with nothing but fiery hot melted rocks. Blastoise now has nowhere to run, but Gary counters by calling Blastoise to cool the field with Hydro Pump. The fire-water interaction creates a giant smoke, and when it clears, we see Charizard and Blastoise hand-fighting in the battlefield. Charizard attempts a close-range Dragon Rage, but Blastoise is quick to withdraw. Ash uses the opportunity to execute a Seismic Toss, and Blastoise couldn't use Hydro Pump to counter Charizard because it's too close. So it goes for its last resort Bite, and tries its best to stop the finishing move. But Charizard pulls through, endures the attack, spins around the air, and slams Blastoise right on the ground. Blastoise is unable to battle, declaring Charizard and Ash as the winner of the match. Ash has finally defeated Gary, fair and square, and he moves on to the quarterfinals. Later that night, Ash and Gary meet up again by the lake, where Gary says that their battle was awesome and that he doesn't even feel bad that he lost. Both trainers feel stronger after battling each other. Gary also gives Ash his half of the Pokeball as a gift, saying that Ash deserves it. Gary then tells Ash that he'll cheer for him in the next match, and that match is against none other than best boy Harrison. It's grass battlefield this time, and Ash gives Pikachu the honors of the battle first. His opponent is the camouflaging Hoenn native Kecleon. Pikachu goes for the offense, but Kecleon disappears and hides behind the grass while sending its attacks towards Pikachu from the shadows. So Pikachu steals the trick and hides in the grass himself. This causes Kecleon to come out and mow the grass with his own tongue, but while doing so, Pikachu grabs hold of its tongue and launches a high voltage Thunderbolt attack, giving Ash the first win of the match. But then the pesky Sneasel comes in. From almost stopping the league to not participating in the league, Sneasel makes quick work of Pikachu with a single Metal Claw. But Totodile is next, thirsty for a rematch with it. He skillfully stops Sneasel's Metal Claw by biting into its claw, playing with it for a little bit, and sending it flying to the Pokemon Center. Harrison's answer to this is Hypno, a tricky Pokemon to deal with. Totodile attempts to use Leer, but it's too cute to do anything against a nonchalant Psychic type. Then when Hypno fights back with Hypnosis, Totodile falls for the trap, and one Psychic later, Totodile is down. Well, Ash probably thinks that Hypno's gimmick is putting its opponent to sleep, so why not be Hypno at its own game by sending out its own Pokemon who likes to sleep, Snorlax. To everyone's surprise, Snorlax is already sleeping soundly. So Harrison takes advantage of this and has Hypno use Dream Eater, but Snorlax is not happy having its energy drained, so it wakes up and takes revenge with a deadly Hyper Beam. Ash has gotten 3 wins now, so that means it's time for the halftime break. Ash's confidence is boosted by his Pokemon's performance thus far, and he thinks he could actually win this, but Misty and Brock warn him to be careful and not underestimate his opponent. Ash knows that winning won't be easy, but he also knows that his friends, Misty, Brock, and Gary are there to support him all throughout. The battle resumes with Ash's Noctowl versus Harrison's Steelix. Noctowl lands the first hit with confusion, but as soon as Snorlax controls the weather with Sandstorm, it follows up with a Dig attack, which somehow manages to damage the flying Pokemon and ultimately end Noctowl out with an Iron Tail. So Ash brings in his trusty Snorlax. As it prepares for a Hyper Beam, Steelix wraps his body around with his big body, but Snorlax breaks free with Ice Punch and proceeds to finish Steelix off with Hyper Beam. That's another 2 wins for Snorlax. Now Ash is gaining momentum in the second half of the battle. Up next for Harrison is Houndoom, and from the last battle, Snorlax has got experience dealing with fiery dogs. He just one-shots them with Hyper Beam, but this time Houndoom's got a secret weapon against that, Counter, sending double the damage Hyper Beam back onto Snorlax, taking it out of the battle. Against the ferocious Houndoom, Ash decides to use his Bayleaf, which is totally a questionable choice. Her Razor Leaf is useless against a single flamethrower. Ash realizes that Houndoom's mouth is indeed dangerous, so he comes up with the idea of calling Bayleaf to use Vine Whip to shut Houndoom's mouth. Bayleaf then whips Houndoom to the ground and finishes it off with a Body Slam. Harrison is now down to his final Pokemon, and as expected, he sends his partner Blaziken, a Pokemon that Ash knows nothing about. And right off the bat, Blaziken shows off its lower body strength as it stops all of Bayleaf's Razor Leafs using only its legs. Bayleaf tries a Vine Whip, but Blaziken's got super upper body strength as well, and swiftly grabs a vine and pulls Bayleaf towards it. Ash attempts to use the momentum to deliver a Body Slam, but Blaziken's Fire Punch hits first and takes Bayleaf out of the battlefield. With only 1 Pokemon left on each side, Ash decides to play Fire with Fire and sends out the star of the last battle, Charizard. The battle begins with a test of firepower as 2 flamethrowers clash onto each other. Neither side comes out on top, so the battle now goes to brute force. Blaziken shows off its speed and ability to jump high and hits Charizard with a barrage of attacks, Meanwhile, Charizard fights back with its flamethrower and his powerful tail. It's one of the most brutal final battles in all of Pokemon anime. Similar to Bulbasaur vs Meganium, this battle is no longer just a battle to win, but a battle of pride as fully evolved fire starter Pokemon. Soon, Charizard finds an opening to execute its finishing move, Seismic Toss. Charizard successfully tosses Blaziken onto the ground, but to everyone's surprise, Blaziken survives. That's because right before hitting the ground, Blaziken used a flamethrower on the ground to cushion its landing. Both Charizard and Blaziken are exhausted at this point, but the brutal battle still continues. Both fire types refuse to give up as they land their attacks one after the other. The battle concludes in a clash between Charizard's Dragon Rage and Blaziken's Flamethrower, and the impact hurts both Pokemon. Both Charizard and Blaziken are down, trying their best to stand up. Blaziken stands up first, followed by Charizard. So Ash calls for another Flamethrower, but turns out Charizard has no more energy left to attack. It falls back down and is unable to battle, winning Harrison the match and ending Ash's reign in the Silver Conference. Ash may have lost the league, but he has proven to have grown so much since the Indigo League. Against all other versions of Ash across different leagues, one could argue that Ash Ketchum in the Johto League is the total package as a battler, as he was carefully researching his opponents, planning his team around them, coming up with quick and clever strategies mid-battle, and truly earning his achievement as one of the top 8 best trainers in the Silver League without making terrible misplays or relying too much on luck. Ash's battle with Harrison exhausted Blaziken so much that it couldn't participate in the semifinals. This causes Harrison to lose his match against John Dixon, the eventual winner of the competition. Later that evening, Ash meets Harrison by the lake to check on Blaziken's well-being. He's probably just guilty that his Charizard caused Harrison to lose. Harrison says that Blaziken is doing just fine now. Then he proceeds to tell Ash a lot about Professor Birch from his hometown called Little Root Town in the Hoenn region. He encourages Ash to go check out the Hoenn region and maybe see and catch some Pokemon he's never seen before. Interestingly, Harrison decides to go to Ash's home region too, and aims to challenge the gyms and participate in the Indigo League. As for Gary, he's made the tough decision to end his journey on being a trainer, challenging gyms, and participating in leagues, and instead become a Pokemon researcher to learn more about Pokemon. Harrison and Gary bid their goodbyes to Ash, Misty, and Brock and make their way to Viridian City. But there, Misty receives a call from her sisters, saying that they want a trip around the world, which leaves Misty with no choice but to watch over the gym while they're gone. On top of that, Nurse Joy comes in with Misty's old bike that is now fixed by the previous Nurse Joy. Ash is excited for Misty, saying that with this bike she can finally get home fast, but this upsets Misty and causes her to run away. She's hurt by Ash's reaction. Of course, Misty wants to keep traveling with Ash and Brock, but she feels that Ash doesn't even care that she's gonna split up. Outside, Misty is troubled by the invincible Pokemon brothers, but Ash and Brock show up to battle alongside her. Ash, Misty, and Brock share one final battle together against the invincible Pokemon brothers and then Team Rocket. After the chaos settles, Ash, Misty, and Brock have a nice walk as they reminisce about the times they spent together. Ash points out that having this meeting with Misty wasn't just a coincidence. He believes that they were meant to meet and become friends. And Brock adds at the cherry on top by saying that after everything they've been through together, they're officially best friends now. The sun soon begins to set, and as Misty bids her goodbye, Brock screams out of nowhere, saying that he also has to go back home. He forgot to tell everyone about this because maybe he didn't want to leave. Misty and Brock part ways with Ash, and Ash begins to cry and say words of gratitude for Misty and Brock as they appear right in front of him. Turns out Brock forgot to give Ash his lunch because he for sure wouldn't get a taste of Brock's cooking for quite a long time. A long time being from this episode to episode 4 of Advanced Generations. Misty then gives him a nice pink handkerchief for him to carry the lunch or perhaps to wipe the tears goodbye. With that, Misty and Brock officially go back to their homes, and Ash too rushes back to Pallet Town. There, he's greeted by his mom, Tracy, and Professor Oak. He learns that Gary already left on his journey with only his Blastoise, so Ash tries his best to catch up. And when he does, he gives back to Gary his half of the Pokeball, so despite being apart, traversing through different paths now, Ash and Gary can still carry a piece of each other no matter where their journey leads them. Ash spends the afternoon sitting on a tree branch with Pikachu, enjoying the fresh air of Pallet Town. But while doing so, he catches a glimpse of Ho-Oh in the sky, similar to when he just began his journey as a Pokemon trainer. Ash believes that Ho-Oh is headed towards the Hoenn region, as if guiding Ash to where to go on his next adventure. This inspires Ash and Pikachu to start a new journey together, but before doing so, Ash has to first deal with a pit dug by Team Rocket. Good thing he's got Misty's handkerchief to cover Pikachu's nose from the smoke, and Brock's cutlery to use as a pit in to climb out of the pit. Despite being alone, Ash always had his friends with him, so soon after blasting Team Rocket off, Ash goes back home and tells his mom that he's decided to go on a new adventure in the Hoenn region with only his Pikachu. But Delia is 3 steps ahead of Ash, as she's already prepared a new set of clothes for him. She truly knows what's in the heart of her son. Ash entrusts his Pokemon to Tracy, Professor Oak updates his Pokédex, and Delia gives him his ferry ticket to the brand new world of Hoenn. He decides to follow the path guided by Ho-Oh, journeying his way to the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Ash's dream of becoming a Pokemon master burns brighter than ever. But with Misty and Brock no longer with him, Ash finds himself in Hoenn, alone. Hey, aren't we forgetting something?